This is Work Lab, the podcast from Microsoft. I'm your host, Elise Hu. On Work Lab, we hear from the leading thinkers on the future of work, economists, technologists, researchers. Throughout this season, we'll share surprising data and trends transforming the way we work.
Because we're living in this unprecedented time of greater anxiety and uncertainty, what worked in the past is not working now.
That was Arianna Huffington, CEO and founder of Thrive, co-founder of HuffPost, and a vocal advocate for holistic employee well-being. Today, we got something special for you. Colette Stahlbaumer is stepping in for me in the host chair. She is the general manager of Microsoft 365, and she's talking with Arianna about a host of topics, from ways to support frontline workers to how we can all get more sleep. I need that. Underlying it all are actionable tips for leaders to promote a healthier workforce. Later in this episode, we'll hear from Microsoft researcher Kate Novak, who talks with Work Lab correspondent Mary Melton about how to make meetings more inclusive and what new technology her team is working on to improve the employee experience. But first, I'm super excited to introduce Colette's conversation with Arianna.
Hello, Arianna. It's so nice to see you.
It's great to see you. So happy to be together again.
So, Arianna, I was reflecting on some of our conversations early in the pandemic. And now here we are, 2 years later, and so much has happened. And one of the things that we are talking a lot about at Microsoft is that we are not the same people that went home to work 2 years ago. We are truly changed.
Yes, I believe we are truly changed. And I very much hope that we use this once-in-a-generation opportunity to bring about these fundamental changes in the way we work, in the way we live, that were needed even before the pandemic. But as you know, Colette, fundamental transformational changes are really hard. And the pandemic, which has been a crucible of a lot of pain and grief and losses, has also been a catalyst for these fundamental changes. As the Stanford economist said, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste.
Yes.
Because I've had friends who've been through traumatic experiences like cancer or losing a loved one, and they will say, I'm never going to be the same. I will live my life differently. I will prioritize different things. And then 6 months later, it's like they forget it and they're back where they were before. So I think it's going to take some work and intentionality to make sure we don't revert to our old ways.
Yes, it's so funny you mentioned intentionality, because that's definitely something I wanted to talk about today. We've been talking about hybrid work for a while now, but we haven't really lived it yet. And now we're going to start to really implement it. How do we make hybrid work work?
Well, what I'm hearing and what we're focusing on at Thrive is bringing all the interventions, the micro steps, the inspiring content, the reminders, everything that we know works when we encourage people to adopt healthier habits, bringing all that in what you call the flow of work. We think that's the key. One of the shifts that has been very clear, and we have so much data around it, is that people are sick of downloading apps. We've been hearing so much about virtual fatigue, and we have solutions. We just need to use them. Taking a break after 30 minutes, as the research shows, through EEGs, changes the waves in our brain, changes our productivity, and also changes our stress levels.
Yes.
And I find this is really key because stress is inevitable in life.
Mm-hmm.
But cumulative stress, which is the killer, is avoidable. We're working with BJ Fogg at Stanford, and the neuroscience that shows that it takes 60 to 90 seconds to course correct from stress, to move from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system is just amazing. Because I find, Colette, if you tell people take 10 minutes to meditate or do conscious breathing, we often get people saying, I don't have 10 minutes, Ariana.
Right.
But nobody's going to tell you, I don't have 60 seconds.
Right. It's human nature, isn't it? Like, it's so hard to change those habits.
It is hard, but also if we break it down into these micro steps that we call too small to fail, it becomes less hard. Healthy habits begin to change how we work and live.
Yes. And I think the other key is what you said about introducing these things in the flow of work so that it makes it easier to adopt new habits that promote and preserve well-being.
Exactly. That's the key. And there was a really interesting piece that you wrote about frontline workers.
Oh, yes. And our work trend index, our special report on the front line.
I loved that, especially post-pandemic, because I believe they have paid the heaviest price.
Yes.
We are working with 2.2 million associates at Walmart, most of whom are in the stores. And we have seen the impact that these micro steps of changing how much you sleep or what you eat or how much you move, these little changes have had amazing, game-changing results. And it's what makes me optimistic that we can change things.
With frontline workers specifically, the 2 billion of workers, as you said, that never got to go home to work and are out there for us every day. What are you seeing as they adopt some of these things?
One of the areas in which we've seen incredible results is the area of call centers. As you know, customer service has seen an incredible increase in demand during the pandemic.
Yeah, they're bearing the brunt of the supply chain shortages and all these other things.
They're in the front lines of stress. And we found that bringing these 60-second interventions that we call Thrive calls have had a game-changing impact. Walmart, we did a pilot with them, and they chose if a call was longer than 20 minutes, which indicated a particularly stressful call, you would then be fed a call and you would assume it's another complaint call.
Right.
But it would be a call that said, thank you for the work you're doing for Walmart or Microsoft or whoever the employer is. Now take 60 seconds for yourself. And the results were amazing, not just in terms of stress reduction, but also in terms of the operators not feeling so disposable, feeling that someone cared for them, and also in terms of customer success.
You've been out ahead of these topics like well-being or meditation and rest and sleep, and made them more a part of the mainstream conversation, I think, to where there's more acceptance of the importance of these things in people's day-to-day work and life.
Exactly. And also that it's data-driven and science-driven, because a lot of these conversations have been seen as kind of warm and fuzzy. And now the employee experience has moved to the center of business priorities, because we're seeing the connection to business metrics like attrition, like recruitment, like productivity, healthcare costs, direct or indirect. And also because we're living in this unprecedented time of greater anxiety and uncertainty, we are finding that what worked in the past is not working now, even among leaders, managers. You have to be an empathetic leader to your team much more than you had to in the past. And you have to tap into your creativity and your empathy in a sustainable way.
Yes, we saw this so much in our data. The over communicating how much you care, it can't be overstated. And it's important for managers and leaders to create that space.
Exactly. And to recognize that it doesn't have to take a lot of time.
Well, what you're really talking about is culture, right? And it's why we're passionate about Viva, our employee experience platform. And I know there's exciting things on the horizon there with the partnership with Thrive, insights to support employee well-being. But really, it's about that role of culture and norms and setting the tone and what we can do on sending a message about what's really important to measure, which is more about the impact you're having and how we help people do their best work and be their best. And then there's technology too, and they each kind of play a role.
Well, that is what is sort of wonderful. Truth is very often paradoxical. And the paradox here is that, first of all, technology has been a lifesaver.
Yes, it has preserved productivity.
It has preserved productivity. But also, we are now recognizing that technology can be addictive. And we have a lot of people, a lot of our own children, who have a hard time setting boundaries. And again, the paradox is that technology can help us set boundaries with technology.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And I love that. I think once we recognize that we need to set our boundaries, we can use technology for these little reminders of breaks, of how much time have we spent on Instagram, and how much time have we spent on this game, all these things that bring us joy. But if we don't set boundaries, they become addictive and they have a really deleterious effect on our health.
As we move into this phase of hybrid where there will be some in-person time, I'm thinking about the need for leaders to be intentional on when we come together, why we come together, what's the purpose of it. Anything you're learning or seeing about that as a trend?
Yes, we are finding that onboarding is becoming more and more important, that it's a great moment for integrating new employees into the company culture at a moment when they really want to belong. And we recommend that on day one, the manager has an entry interview with the new employee. On day one, it doesn't have to be long, it can be 10 minutes. But establishing this connection, which is going to be more and more important when maybe they've never met.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we hired 34,000 people at Microsoft this year that have not had that in-person experience.
Exactly. The first question we recommend is, what is important for you outside of work? And how can we support you? And the reason this matters is that we talk a lot about bringing your whole self to work, but a lot of employees don't believe that. So if you tell them, we want to support what's important for you outside of work, and if they hear that on day one from their manager, and then anytime they have a one-on-one, they can bring it up. It can be, I want to take my daughter to school at 7 a.m. That's very important to me. I want to make my PT appointment every 2 weeks at 6. It can be anything. But suddenly, if I asked you that question, Colette, and you told me, I would have a window into what matters to you or what you are struggling with.
Yes, well, I'm hearing a whole theme here around maintenance is no longer good enough. It's going to take holistic leadership, empathetic leadership, caring about the whole person, showing people and telling people we care.
And role modeling it.
Mm-hmm.
For example, that Satya believes in getting 8 hours of sleep. I love that. I think that was game-changing when you first mentioned it.
Yes, I'm so glad you touched on sleep. So you've long been a proponent of this, and the data is very clear, and we all know what the research says. And I think more people are getting on the 8 hours of sleep bandwagon. But I also know a lot of people, and I will count myself among them, really struggling with this right now. So, any tips, on how we can break bad sleep habits?
Well, yes. Oh my God. How long do you have? Well, the first thing actually is that not everybody needs 8 hours. For the vast majority of people, we need 7 to 9 hours. I'm an 8 hour girl. Whatever it is, you see what a difference it makes when you wake up in the morning and you're fully recharged and it's like, bring it on. Whatever challenges the day holds, I can handle them. And this is not to judge myself because we all have nights when we didn't get the sleep we wanted. That's fine, we'll deal with it. The question is, what do you do on an everyday basis? And then if your problem is not being able to fall asleep or waking up in the middle of the night, the most important thing is to create a transition to sleep.
I'm hearing the importance of ritual to getting the right rest.
Absolutely critical. And you can start with a 5-minute ritual. Mine is now 30 minutes. But again, micro steps. And a 5-minute ritual I would recommend is declare an end to your working day. I'm saying declare an end because there is no end to our working day.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to switch gears a bit. So, women have been hit particularly hard by the pandemic. And the data shows that, 1.1 million women have left the labor force since February of 2020. And at the same time, our own data, Work Trend Index data and LinkedIn data shows that, that women overwhelmingly want flexible work options. And so how can organizations create a culture that supports that? And what are business leaders getting right and what do they need to do more of?
Yes, obviously, flexibility is table stakes for everyone, but especially for women and especially for working mothers. We are finding actually, Colette, that with a lot of the companies we work with, the employees, the women may be doing well, but they worry about their children.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is that no matter how much we talk about fathers doing more of the work of parenting, it still falls disproportionately on women. It's changing.
Yes, it does.
And whether it's same-sex couples as well, you see that one of them has the primary responsibility for taking care of children. So we've actually produced a whole program to help couples bring everything that has worked in the office into how they're managing, dividing responsibilities at home. It seems like you're bringing too much structure at home. But if you don't, the default position is that it falls on the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the actual work, it's also mind share. Maybe the partner takes the child to the doctor, but if I have to remind them,
right.
I still have to think about it.
Yeah, I think where we've seen technology help is even in giving people more options and more ways for their voice to be heard. That's true for women as well as different generations. It's true for introverts. There's the option to use the hand raise, or there's the option to use chat in terms of contributing. But I'm just thinking about the different ways that the pandemic has been a catalyst for creating more opportunity for people to be heard.
Absolutely. And also creating more reflection around what we value.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, applies to men as well as women. But we are seeing in this great resignation that we are calling the great reevaluation, that some of it is strictly that women are more burnt out, that they had to manage a lot more. And some of it is questioning what people value. Because
Yes.
for decades, we had assumed that the most important thing is
More.
kind of being the career ladder.
Yes.
doing better and better and better, making more money, having higher titles. And a lot of people are questioning that now.
That's right. People are really contemplating why they work.
Yes. And also, this is incredibly important for our culture generally. I'm Greek, and Greek philosophers always talked about what is a good life.
Yes.
And in modern times, we reduced the definition of a good life into a successful life. And we reduce success to money and status slash power. And, I wrote a whole book about it called
Yes.
Thrive. But my point was
Yes,
that
you did.
that's not enough. This is like trying to sit on a two-legged stool.
Right.
And the third leg of the stool is what a lot of people now want to integrate in their lives. And it involves, our health and well-being. It involves our capacity to tap into our own wisdom and go to deeper places within ourselves. It involves our ability to experience beauty and a sense of wonder about our lives, which so often we ignore. And finally, to integrate giving into our lives. And that's a full life. That's why we now started calling it the life work integration. It's not work life, it's life work.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Colette. Thank you for all you're doing.
That was lovely and so great to hear Ariana talking about inserting more intentionality into our lives, something I know I could certainly use, and especially as it relates to balancing work and our well-being. Our correspondent Mary Melton talked to someone who has great advice for being more intentional on the work front, specifically in virtual meetings, something a lot of us have plenty of experience in by now. She's Kate Novak, a behavioral science researcher at Microsoft who leads a new team building the tools that will make our work lives easier. Here's Mary.
One common stressor while working from home is the number of video meetings that end up on our calendars, and it affects women more than men. A Stanford study found that 1 in 7 women experience video call fatigue, compared to just 1 in 20 men. That may partly be due to something Kate called conversation overlaps. She explains that concept here and outlines some other common challenges in virtual meetings.
One of the top challenges that people have been experiencing is turn taking. In video meetings, the conversations are more formal, they're a bit stilted, and they're less interactive. And you probably have also experienced uncomfortable periods of silence because people are trying to negotiate taking the floor and they don't know when to speak. That fear of interrupting is heightened in a video meeting environment today. And this is in contrast with in-person communication where things are more dynamic. There's more overlaps in conversations. And these overlaps that we're avoiding in video meetings are actually really important for human communications. It creates dynamism. It makes conversations more enjoyable. There are 2 different kinds of conversation overlaps. There's cooperative and then there's competitive. So cooperative is the good stuff. These are the overlaps when you're maybe finishing another person's thought or you're helping someone with word search or you're encouraging them like, yeah, I agree. Those are really helpful for conversation. And the competitive ones are things like hostile attempts. Those aren't any fun. The main takeaway is that overlapping speech or talking over one another is not bad, and we're missing it in video meetings. That's specifically something that I'm looking into helping restore in conversations. This is actually could lead to less feelings of fatigue because you feel more energized by a conversation than drained.
Kate also had great insights on how leaders can be much more intentional about making meetings more inclusive. All you need, she says, is a little advanced planning. That could mean creating equal opportunities for everyone to contribute to the meeting while they're in the meeting, for example, or just making sure every attendee has all the materials they need beforehand to succeed. Here's how she navigates meetings with her own team.
So knowing that some of my peers might be afraid to speak up, I'm much more conscious of them. I'm watching the room to see who hasn't had a chance to speak and encourage participation without putting people on the spot. And also using the chat more. We see that parallel chat, it can be a very positive thing for certain people, especially those who are typically afraid to speak up. So it gives someone another way of participating where in an in-person meeting, you didn't have that channel. So in some cases, it can cause a distraction, but in other cases, it can be very positive for people who aren't able to get a word in edgewise. I'm a big proponent of leaders or meeting organizers planning in advance, making sure people have the context that they need for a meeting. In meetings where, your inclusivity is the top concern, it's really important to be prepared, to show up with that information. I would also tell leaders to have a facilitator, because that's really helpful because it can be hard to participate and also encourage participation and keep track of who's spoken and who has not spoken. You want to make sure that everybody feels that they are included.
That was Kate Novak, researcher at Microsoft, talking with our correspondent Mary Melton about how to have more inclusive virtual meetings. That's it for this episode of the WorkLab podcast from Microsoft, where you can find, among many other things, a transcript of this very episode. That's all at Microsoft.com/WorkLab. And as for this podcast, please rate us, review, and follow us wherever you listen. It helps us out a lot. The WorkLab podcast is a place for experts to share their insights and opinions. As students of the future of work, Microsoft values inputs from a diverse set of voices. That said, we should mention the opinions and findings of our guests are their own, and they may not necessarily reflect Microsoft's own research or positions. WorkLab is produced by Microsoft with Godfrey Daddich Partners and Reasonable Volume. I'm your host, Elise Hu. Our correspondents are Mary Melton and Desmond Dickerson. Sharon Calander and Matthew Duncan produce this podcast. Jessica Volker is the WorkLab editor. Thanks for listening.